All right, how many times have you had to go to the hardware store in one day in order to complete a project at home? I want to hear from you because for me, I had to go to the hardware store multiple times yesterday to fix a leaky faucet in the kitchen. So how many times have you had to go to a hardware store? 217-629-7970. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Just search out Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. But the best way to do it is to call in live and local here, and we'll answer the phone, take your calls at 217-629-7970. I do a lot of projects at home. I should probably hire out the professionals so I don't have to go back and forth between the hardware store and watch YouTube videos to try to figure things out. One thing that I can change a light fixture. I can change a light switch. But anything beyond that, electrical work, no thank you. I've been doing some plumbing here and there when it comes up. It's so frustrating, not having the know-abouts or the know-how. It can definitely get frustrating. And that was something that happened yesterday with me. I had noticed for a couple of weeks that the kitchen faucet is starting to leak a little bit. It's a stem, kind of a gooseneck type of faucet, and it was leaking a little bit right at one of the joints of the faucet, the spout, or I don't even see. See, here's the problem. I don't know the terms. And that's why I think it's probably best if I just hire out the professionals. But I had to go to the hardware store, not just one hardware store, but 2 different hardware stores, 4 different times yesterday. 4 different times. I thought I knew I had the part that I needed. Come home. That wasn't the right part. Went back, got a different part, thought it was the one I needed. Went back home, wasn't the right part. 4 different times I went to the hardware store. Can you beat that? Good morning, you're on WMAY. How many times did you go to the hardware store in one day in order to complete a project at home?
Greg, I've only done it twice, actually. But for me, what I try to do when I'm doing something like this, mainly because I'm blind, and I can't read all the numbers off parts and stuff, but I try, if I can, to take the part out that I'm going to replace and take it with me. And try to do that. But the time I went twice to the hardware store was a couple of years ago. We still had our condo up in Chicago area. I did not know I needed to put in a quiet closed toilet seat. I did not know there are 2 different sizes of toilet seats. So I just went and got one, and it didn't fit. And I'm like, darn it, now I got to go back.
We've done the same thing. We have done the same exact thing. And by the way, those quiet closed...
For me, I got to call an Uber and everything else to do it. So I can't just jump in my car.
Man. Oh, gosh. We've been there. Trust us. We have those quiet closed toilet seats, which, by the way, if you don't have those quiet closed toilet seats, holy cow, they're fantastic. I now find myself in places that don't have the slowly closing toilet seats. I'm slamming toilet seats down.
Yeah,
right?
You too, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm so used to the luxury of the toilet seat that just slowly goes down. But we've done the exact same thing. We had one of those that wasn't working right, so we decided to just go get a new one. We went and got one, brought it back home. Megan was actually looking to put it on, and she figured out it was the wrong size. It was we bought a round one, not the elongated one.
Yep.
And that's the type of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think your tip as well is spot on. Take the part that you're wanting to replace with you. And I did that yesterday. It was an O-ring. A small little rubber ring in the faucet that's supposed to prevent leaks. It had ripped, so I took the O-ring with me and even matched it up with other O-rings, the diameter, the thickness, and I swear to you, I had the right one the first time. I come home, try to put it on, it's too big.
Man, I'll tell you, I just go in, and mainly because I have to, but I go in, I just say to the guy, here's what I need to replace. Go get me a replacement.
I love it. No, you're right. I should have just, my ego got in the way, and I thought I could do this, no problem. Understand. But then it was...
We're men, Greg. We're men. We understand this.
Fantastic. I appreciate your call. Thanks for making me not feel as dumb as as I probably should. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. How many times did you have to go to a hardware store in order to complete a project? I went 4 times. We went to the hardware store we go to all the time right before we went to go get groceries. And I even told Megan, I was like, all right, we're going to buy this O-ring, but we might as well buy a new faucet, right? And if we don't need it, we could take it back. But it's probably best just to have it, right? And I even told her that. But when we got the part, the O-ring, which was like 97 cents or something like that, we even bought a couple of them. When I got the O-ring that I thought was the right O-ring, I looked at her, I said, I think we're good. I don't think we need to get a faucet. Yeah, I'm regretting that now. Because if we had gotten the faucet, the first trip, along with the O-ring, I don't think we would have had any problems. Because I would have checked the O-ring, and if it didn't fit right, I would have thrown my hands up right then and said, we've got the faucet, I'm just going to replace the faucet. Instead, we left the hardware store with the O-ring. It didn't fit. I threw my hands up and I'm like, I got to go back to the hardware store. Went to a different hardware store the second time, found an O-ring that was just a little bit smaller. And I'm like, this has got to fit. This has got to fit. And then I get back to the faucet back at home and it doesn't fit. So the next step is what? I can't go without a kitchen faucet. We use that thing so much every day, doing dishes, filling up the coffee maker, drinking water, cooking, cleaning. I had to have the kitchen faucet fixed yesterday. And since, the O-ring that was causing it to leak had ripped, I had to find a replacement. So after the second trip of not having the right O-ring, I made a third trip to a different hardware store. Found what I thought was the right O-ring. All right, and even Megan at that time, she's looking up the model of the faucet we have, sending me schematics of the faucet and a PDF, and I'm sitting there in the hardware aisle, like looking through, and I probably could have asked somebody at the hardware store for some assistance, but I don't know if they would have been able to provide me the level of assistance I needed, because I needed a specific O-ring that even Megan, with her research skills, couldn't necessarily find exactly. So I grabbed another one on my third trip to the hardware store, brought it home, and I'm thinking, this is it. This is it. I'm going to fix this. All right. So I took the faucet part and I tried to put it on, put the grease around it and everything, and screw it back on and turn on the faucet, and it's spewing water all over the place. So I had to make... Megan and I went to the hardware store together for the 4th time, where we then picked up a new faucet and just called it a day. Went in and took care of business, and all was well. But it took much longer than it should have. How many times have you had to go to the hardware store? And listen, I know I'm not the only one. I almost wanted to ask one of the clerks at the hardware store, so what's the most you've seen people come in one day for different parts? What about you? How many times did you have to go to the hardware store to get the right part to finish a project at home? Good morning.
Bishop, I'm a lot older than you, so 4 is pretty much the standard. But one of these days, you'll learn really quick one of two things. Okay, first is, if it looks remotely like it, just buy it and return it later if you don't need it. That reduces your trips to the hardware store.
That's what we were gonna do the first trip. I had the O-ring I wanted to replace, thought I had the right one, and I even told Megan before we got into the hardware store, we might as well just buy a faucet so I could save myself another trip in case it doesn't work. And then my ego got in the way, and I was like, I don't need that other faucet. I got this. That wasn't the case.
There's no ego when it comes to plumbing. My second piece of advice is make good friends with a plumber. That's what I did. That saved me a lot of trouble. So, because he looks at me, I call him, he looks at me, and he's like, no.
He's probably got the part like in his back pocket. He could probably look at it and just know exactly the diameter, exactly what needs to happen. Yeah.
Now, I'd like to give you another piece of advice if I can.
Go ahead.
And that is, you're going to buy some funky tools and you're only going to use them every 3 to 4 years. Don't get rid of them. If your wife is like, well, you never use these, or you think you never use these, so you just get rid of them, don't do that. My wife's notorious for that, And she's just like, well, just go out and get another one when you need it, like once every 4 years. And I'm like, okay, it's only $85. And then her mouth drops, and then so don't get rid of any. I don't care if it's plumbing, whatever it is. Don't get rid of any of your old tools.
No,
okay?
I'm with you, absolutely. And I think your first bit of advice as well. Know somebody who's in the trades, a plumber, an electrician. Absolutely, they could probably save you a lot of heartache if you just give them a call right up. I appreciate the call. How many times have you had to go to the hardware store in one day in order to complete a project? I had to go 4 times yesterday to fix my leaky kitchen faucet. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Morning, Bishop.
Hey.
I'm with you. I've been 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times before. Thank God I live close to Noonan's on Bruns Lane. But for future reference,
Yeah.
unless you are a plumber, don't ever, and I repeat, ever try to rebuild a sink.
Well, you mean like rebuild the whole thing, or just the faucet?
Yeah, just the faucet. Here's the thing. Okay. Just like you said, you're not going to get it done right the first time, all right?
Right.
So let's just say you have 20 minutes involved in that,
Right.
all right? And then you're like, oh, crap, I got to go back to the hardware store. Look, there's another 20 minutes. There's 40 minutes you have involved in this thing already. I don't know what you consider your hourly wage on a Sunday, but mine's pretty damn high. And I would just as soon get it over with and bought the new faucet and called it a day.
I'm so with you, but I thought to myself, I watched a YouTube video, and I'm like, all I need is an O-ring and some grease. Oh, come on, I got this. This is easy peasy. This is no problem.
For the work I do, I love YouTube. I cut trees down on the side, and I love when somebody goes, oh, I watched a YouTube video how to cut a tree down. It's the greatest. How old was your faucet?
It was only about 4 or 5 years old because I had installed that new faucet. Well, it wasn't new, but I installed that faucet about 4 or 5 years ago. And then, I figured I could just replace a ring and be done with it and move on with my day. But instead of spending 20 minutes just to replace the faucet, I spent darn near 4 hours going back and forth to the hardware store to get stupid O-rings.
2 questions. Was it brand new when you installed it?
Yes.
Do you live in Chatham?
No.
Do you have Chatham water?
No. We live South Sangamon County. I think I can't remember what the...
Are you on a well?
No, not a well, but I would imagine there is some calcium buildup that could be at play here.
Because Chatham water is notorious for all the guts in the sinks and the faucets and that. Yeah. Just completely destroying them within a year and a half. If you get a good one.
Wow. So I got to keep an eye on that. Absolutely. Otter Lake, I think, is where our water supply is. How many times have you had to go to the hardware store to complete a project? 4 times for me. That's the most so far in my excursions of home improvement. But there's been times where we'll be outside working on some kind of construction of a overhang of the back porch, or when we were working on our fence, which wraps around our entire yard. It's a 6-foot privacy fence. We had to go back to the hardware store dozens of times, but that was spanned over multiple weeks. 4 times in one day. That's how many times I had to go to the hardware store yesterday in order to fix a leaky faucet. Good morning. Last call on this. You're on WMAY.
Good morning, GB.
Hey.
Sorry for your battling the plumbing situation.
I should have just called you because I know either you could have directed me to somebody, or you could have just told me how to do it, or just say, forget about the O-rings, go get a new faucet.
Everybody always says, I got a guy.
Right.
You can go see a guy. Well, what I've done years ago is I've gone to Harbor Freight, and they sell this assortment of O-rings. And I tell you, it has helped me a bunch, and I've not had to go to the hardware store as often as you would think you would have to, because they almost have every size in there that you need. Now, every once in a while, it'll throw you a curveball, and it won't. But and it's only like $4 or $5 for this assortment of O-rings. And there's all different sizes.
I saw other assortments like that, and I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't want to buy a whole bunch of O-rings and just have them sitting around. I know I've got the right one. I've got the replacement in my hand, don't I? And sure enough, I didn't.
And if I don't have one, I'll buy 2 or 3 of the same thing. So if it ever goes out again, I'll mark it, for
That's
that
what
thing.
I thought I'd do as well, but it didn't work out that way.
All right. Thank you much.
I appreciate the call. All right. It was fun to hear everybody and the escapades of home improvement. Just all the things that can go wrong. Thankfully, though, I got the faucet fixed. It ruined my entire day because I wanted to, do some, organizing and some cleaning out of closets and stuff like that. But nope. Spent all day dealing with a faucet, going back to the hardware store 4 times. I probably should have just called a plumber, got it on the schedule, and been done there. Or I should have just brought a new faucet home because I can install a faucet. That's fine. But trying to rebuild the faucet with O-rings, yeah, that wasn't a smart idea. It took way too much time. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Good morning, Greg. I do custom remodels for people, and I still make several trips at times to go to the hardware store. And just a key word on those O-rings, sometimes if you get them real tight and you get them in there, apply what they have called plumber's grease.
Yep.
What it does, allows it to seat in with that other O-ring piece that goes down and clamps on it. So that helps out sometimes. But, yeah, for the most part, I understand where you're at. I've been there and done that.
So even for somebody who does it professionally, you got to go back to the hardware store. That's comforting. I appreciate that. Thanks for chiming in on this fun segment here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's news and